Fran. Thanks. Yeah. So anyway, so thanks, John. John, you got to show up every time just to remind us, you know?
Only when the sun shines.
Okay, that's great. Anyway, so yeah, we have Eric Kraft and team on in 2 weeks. At the moment, again, we're doing an every other week format. I just was voted in as president a little over 2 weeks ago, and so that's part of the move towards that. We might go back to every week at some point, but we don't know. We're right now we're doing every other week. But thank you, Kevin, for offering to do this today. So this will be a great talk. So let me share with everybody my screen. Hold on. And let me know if you can see it. No. Oh, hold on. It's still loading. Okay, now you should see it, right? Everybody see it?
Waiting.
Yeah,
Wow.
There it
Sorry,
Now
is.
I'm
we
in the
see it.
car. Okay, great. Okay,
Got it.
cool. Thank you. So, yeah, today is Fireside Chat number 270. Only 270 of these. Kevin has written 2 articles recently all about Microsoft licensing. Yes, more expensive, more confusing, and what you need to know now. So, very exciting to have Kevin on. Thank you, Kevin, in advance. I've got 2 polling questions for us, which I think are very relevant. So, hold on. Why is this taking so long? Okay, here we go. So this first one is, will Microsoft pricing affect organizations and their decisions around Teams and other products? So definitely no, maybe, possibly yes, likely, or definitely yes. Please vote. Now, that's probably a precursor because Kevin's going to enlighten us as to what this means percentage-wise, etc. And when things get significant, I always know that people at least want to go shopping or at least want to know a baseline. Is this fair with the industry? So I think it's a very, interesting response. So thanks for voting, everybody. Let me end the poll here. And again, my internet, I guess, is very slow. I apologize. Here we go. So I'm going to share the results. And you can see it's semi-split but the 3 keys are maybe, possibly yes, and likely. Okay, with a follow-on and definitely no and maybe yes. So, Kevin, I think that's one thing that you can take there as a small takeaway for your talk.
Yeah, that's
I've got
like 90, that's like 90%. We're at least going to consider it, so that's a big number.
Yeah, that is a big number. Yes, thank you. Exactly. The second one is even more interesting, in my opinion, and that is, will Microsoft pricing changes create new consulting and VAC opportunities? And again, Kevin, we can talk about that too.
Yeah.
So definitely no, maybe, possibly yes, likely, definitely yes. And so, always when we're out there consulting and looking for new opportunities, there has to be some kind of market shift that is potentially immediate, that could, or short term, that could potentially create, interest, for all of us. So I think the knowledge that we gained today, we can definitely bring that to a client. And Kevin, if you can, somehow you refer to your articles for, follow up from anybody today, that would be great too. Okay, so let me end the poll. Thanks everybody for voting. Go ahead. Oh, I thought someone was sharing. Hold on, again, the PC is very slow. Okay, here we go. So, you can see everybody, nobody said no, which is very interesting. And either maybe, possibly yes, likely, or definitely yes. Again, that's 100%. So that's very interesting to see that, yes, there's definitely a consulting, or let's say if Mitel is one example, I'll pick on Dave for a second, or even 5.9, how we can see, Fran, I said 5.9, not 5.9s. Did you
good
catch
job.
that?
Good job. Yeah.
See, Dave Michaels trained me very well 2 weeks ago,
Well
so and I realized what it was. That's just such a common industry term, 5.9s,
Right.
that's the issue. So anyway, but long story short, okay, let me stop the share. Thanks everybody. But yeah, interesting. I think this is an opportunity for every VAC member as well as every consultant, if you look at it that way. Okay. Pricing changes, especially from a core vendor that is very involved in the industry, in a very big way, being Microsoft, that can definitely affect us. So thanks everybody for voting. I appreciate that. So a big thank you to Dave Michaels from 2 weeks ago. He is, of course, the founder, and yes, he's the self-proclaimed chief protagonist at Talking Points. And he did his insights on 2025 and 2026. He had some great opinions. We really pulled from his latest newsletter for all of us that receive it. And we really were talking about what's happening, later this year. But yeah, he had some great commentary. If you didn't see it or hear it, as a member, please go back. It's great material. Okay. A famous quote. I forgot to change it. I'm sorry. This is the one from 2 weeks ago if you weren't on. So computers will be filling the roles, but high-level executives leaving 90% of the population to live a state-subsidized life of leisure. Okay. And I thought of this especially in light of AI. Okay. So this was Time Magazine back in 1966. And that's, technology was going to change everything. And we were just going to sit back and relax and work 20 to 30 hours a week. So how accurate that was. So with government benefits, even non-working families, by one estimate, at an annual income, oops, sorry. I apologize. I clicked the wrong button. Yes, would now be making 390 up to 390,000 with a life of leisure. So, okay, so I should do a polling question around that. How many got to that in their lifetime? No, I don't think so. Anyway, but we're starting to see predictions around AI now that AI is going to change our livelihood, where it will free up a whole bunch of our time, right? So we're starting to see that we can use ChatGPT and other kinds of AI going forward to make life a little bit easier for us and give us faster responses and give us a better knowledge. But, in the end, is that going to really improve our time? No, we just get tasked with more time, right? Or more tasks, I should say. So anyway, we have Kevin on this week. And again, thank you, Kevin, for coming forward. We really appreciate that. And Dave, I'll hand the microphone over to you real quick for any kind of thoughts, commentary that you have.
Well, thank you, Steve. I just
Sure.
want to remind everyone that there's a lot of us that are going to be at Enterprise Connect, both VAC and consultants. So get with us and let us know if you're going to be there. I think it's a great time for the VAC to get together, and as well as the consultant community. But speaking of membership, we've all been handed a challenge by our fearless leader now, Steve Layton, to produce at least 2 or 3 consultant leads for consultants out there that you feel would be a great fit to our organization. I've already sent 3 leads to Steve and Chuck. So I'm challenging all of the VAC members to send at least 2 contacts over to Steve and the recruitment team, so we can get those folks into our great organization and continue to thrive. And with that, if you haven't renewed your membership, please do so we can get on our planning stages for next year and keep this organization moving forward. Back over to you, partner.
And well, thanks, Dave. You just took all the wind out of my sails because you just said what I was going to say.
Oh, no.
That's all right. That's all right.
Well,
No. I was just going to say
Uh-huh.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, it's that time of the year. Please renew your membership. We actually have some big growth plans also for the organization. And I do have an announcement around that. So, I think if Fran Horner, Fran Blackburn, who has been, offering to help us for quite a while now, for several months, has now taken a job full time and Fran, I'll let you speak to what that is in a second. But yeah, Fran will no longer be able to help us very shortly. She's really getting engaged now by her new company, pretty much full time. So Fran, just give us a 2-liner or a 3-liner on what your new role is, please.
I am definitely full-time analyst relations and also adding in the consultant piece of that. So if you are focused on contact center and you want to be engaged, it's going to be targeted. It'll be specific to those consultants that need that information. So let me know how I can help there. Definitely full-time. I've been helping you guys like in the evening and the weekends. So I'm deciding to take some time off. So when in the evening, that kind of thing, in the weekends, I may not be working every weekend, but
And Fran has been awesome. She was instrumental at the Reno conference, and both myself and Denise can attest to that. She was so involved in so many areas. So we'll definitely miss that aspect of you, Fran, but I know you're still going to be around. But I do have an announcement that Fran has led us to an individual actually ran a consultant program several years ago. She ran actually the Alcatel program, if everybody remembers, and that's Tracy Venters.
Oh, yeah.
And Tracy has since started her own firm, and she met with Fran, and Fran gave her the scoop on exactly what our requirements are as an association member. I should say manager. I apologize. And I spoke to Tracy yesterday, and I gave her the offer, and she accepted.
Yay,
So
congratulations.
yeah. So Tracy's going to get onboarded shortly. We just have to get the formal agreement in place, and we've got not only Tracy at halftime, but she's also we're going to give her some incentives to also bring in new members too. So she'll be very involved in the membership growth process, and we have some big goals amongst the board of us. We want to see our association grow by 50% this year. Okay, and I think if everybody brings in at least two individuals that are non-members into our membership, we'll definitely see that. And we're also looking for 10 new VAC members. And again, I don't think those are overly difficult as long as we have our, members involved. So we're really looking forward to all of that. So thanks. So one other thing. So, I had a chance to, speak with Dave Clardy yesterday, and Chuck Vondra and I were involved, at this meeting, and I happened to do an AI lookup for what would be the percentage of consultants that are, or the potential influence or revenue of consultants in 2026. Now, this was a worldwide figure, but effectively with the markets, UC market's going to be at 242 billion. And as I remember, contact center is going to be at 10 billion, a small 10 billion. I'm kidding, of course, or, small, but, according to AI and according to the lookups that it did, according to articles that it pulled from, they're claiming that for all mid to large enterprise customers, consultants will be involved anywhere between 45% to 60% of all major decisions. It's a huge number. And I can tell you why. The big part of this is that AI is growing by leaps and bounds. And to reference one of our colleagues from Cognigy, that we're growing in cat years, which cat years is actually 24 years and 24 months. Okay, so we're growing at that pace. And the bottom line being that AI is forcing us to look at AI in various contexts. So one of the comments that came out of Dave's meeting yesterday, that senior management is funding AI projects and giving it to IT, but they don't know what to do with the money. When it comes to AI. So we're getting funding, but they don't know what to do with it. And then Gartner, of course, is talking about in 2026, 2027, I can't remember, it was 60 or 70% of, they're predicting that 60 to 70% of all AI projects will fail. So they need expertise around AI and other, of course, CX and UC and all that good stuff that's related to AI. How can we as experts manage down that risk and have them on a successful path day one? So anyway, it was a huge lookup for me. And so I'm basically declaring the year of, and by the way, it was independent consultants was the frame that I put around AI. It was not agents. It was not resellers. It was not VARs. It was independent consultants. So it didn't get specific about, assessments versus RFPs versus project management. It did not get involved in that. Okay. But I can tell you for us personally, we are involved in a mid to large AI project right now, actually for patient appointments and patient refills and things along those lines. Okay. Which will evolve to many, many other applications. But we've already done a study around AI and showed that AI would save this client, including all the build outs that they have to pay and for the licensing, that the client can save net $2 million a year. So AI definitely can help. Okay. So bottom line is, it's a big wave, and I really believe that 2026 is the year for independent consultants. Enough said. So, Kevin, I'm going to stop my share here, and I will give you the screen here, and we're looking forward to your talk here.
Yeah, no. Thanks, thanks, Steve. So here, do you guys see that I'm sharing now?
Yeah, I can see
Yeah,
your
yeah,
screen.
yeah.
Kevin, I just
Perfect.
Hey,
wanted
so
to
Kev,
just Kevin, I just wanted to
yes,
say I love your bio pics, and whoever was your stylist pick the jacket perfect to go with your hunky blue eyes. So there you
Oh,
go.
there you go. Well, thank you. I think this was actually this is the jacket I wore, and I think this was at WebEx. Like WebEx, they bring in a really professional photographer and do these headshots, right? And
wow.
the guy is like really good. So I was like, man, you made me look better than I ever looked. So anyway, so I'm going to talk about Microsoft licensing, as Steve said, although Steve, like he did his own presentation. So there you go.
I'm sorry, Kevin.
No, it's
Yes, and happy hour tomorrow for everybody. And yeah,
all.
and no, but AI is hot and it's going to be a great year for all of us. I really believe that. Go ahead. Sorry, Kevin.
So, hey, so here's the first thing. There is no, if anybody says they're a Microsoft licensing expert, like this smarmy looking guy, there is no Microsoft licensing expert because so anybody who tells you they are, that's false. I am not going to tell you that I'm a Microsoft licensing expert. I'm going to share a few things that I have learned, and I'm sure there's many things that I haven't. As Steve said, I'm Kevin Keeler. I am half analyst, half consultant, still trying to figure that out. I help vendors, I help large organizations. I also, I feel it's a ragtag group. It sounds like the Star Wars, but anyway, I lead the ragtag group of independent analysts and consultants that we call BC Strategies. I co-host a real fun show with David Maldo called the AI Chefs. It's not recipes for food. It's tips to help you use AI to improve business. As Steve said, AI is definitely big. And my dog Kai is 11 and people ask how he's doing. And he's had some health issues over the last week or two, but I just the key thing is appreciate every day. He's 11, so like all of us, he seems to be getting older every day. If anybody has a
Yeah.
solution to figure out how to stop that, please let me know. So that's who I am.
So
Microsoft, like,
he's your chief of staff, right, Kevin?
yeah,
Hi is.
he is. He's lying under the desk here. He'll yip if I say something incorrect. There you go. So just real quick, I'm going to talk about Microsoft licensing, why it's important, why it's confusing, what's changing briefly, and then some thoughts and ideas on how to manage your Microsoft spend or help your customers manage their spend because like that poll showed, I think there's lots of opportunities for all of us. So why it's important, here's a diagram that I keep updating. I mean, um, there's lots of people and companies using Microsoft Office. No surprise that, latest thing, as of January, 440 million paid commercial Office seats. Of those, 350 million, about 80% use our monthly active users of Teams. 26 million of those, so that's like 7% use Teams Phone with PSTN. So they use Teams as their voice system. And then you can see a lot of people using Copilot, not, maybe less than 5% actually paying for it. So lots of people use Microsoft Office. This equates to a monthly spend by everybody of between somewhere between $7 and $9 billion per month, which means, and this is why I said there's $100 billion blind spot, you know, worldwide, people are spending $100 billion a year on Microsoft licenses, right? So
Wow.
this is a
Incredible.
this is a big thing, right? I mean, that's actually bigger than the GDP of a whole bunch of countries, right? So anyway,
Hmm.
it's a big number. That's why it's important. And another reason it's important is because AI, but Copilot specifically from Microsoft, it's a big spend. So if you look at traditional like enterprise licenses, people buy an E3 or an E5, and I'll talk a little bit more business premium. These are companies with 300 or less people. Um, they buy M365 business premium license. But if you add Copilot to these licenses, and I think that this is why people are both interested, worried, and haven't budgeted for. If you have an E3, Copilot's, an additional 45%, spend. I mean, They have E5, which costs more, like $57. Copilot at $30 per user per month, 34% of your spend. And then even in the business where you're paying less for business premium, Copilot, even with their special, which is $18 per user per month, it's a significant new spend that maybe makes sense and maybe it doesn't, but this is why Microsoft licensing and managing it is of critical importance. So the second thing is okay, well, why is it confusing? Maybe this should be straightforward. First and foremost, I mean, it's Microsoft. They seem to have figured out how to make everything confusing. Um, that's a bit of a kick at Microsoft, but there's a couple of things. They keep changing names of things. So, Copilot becomes, Microsoft 365 Copilot. Then they have Copilot Chat. They have Copilot Pro, which has now become, Business Premium. So, and they have bad naming. They just keep picking bad names that don't really, like you might think that Copilot Pro is better than Copilot, but it's not. And but in their defense, Microsoft provides huge number of tools and services. I mean, that's why they're, making the mega bucks. But of course, it's going to be confusing because there's so many different capabilities that they offer. Um, and their licensing is changing. And this is not just Microsoft, but all of the vendors are trying to figure out as AI evolves, there's a lot of compute costs. So they're trying to figure out how to price this. And all of the vendors are, saying, well, we're going to offer some, like you got Zoom and WebEx offering AI Assistant, AI Companion at no additional cost. But then they have some add-ons because if you use it too much, that's going to really, drive their cost of goods sold. So, Microsoft Defense, they're trying to keep up, and obviously they're awesome at not losing money because they're making money based on all their quarterly reports. But as Steve said, and I'll provide this deck, and these are links. I wrote 2 articles and a white paper on that goes deeper and kind of provides this, and of course I'll provide the slides to anybody, and it's got all the hyperlinks there. So that's why it's confusing. And just in case you didn't realize how confusing it is, this is the enterprise kind of chart that shows, kind of basically what the different options are. But you think, okay, this is pretty confusing. But let me just like drill down on one thing. This is page 1 of 11. So it gets like there's 11 pages of this detailed chart when you figure out what the heck each of the licenses means. So it's super complicated. You would say, but Kevin, that's enterprise. I imagine for small and medium businesses, it's a lot simpler. It is simpler. Here's the chart for that. It's simpler. It's only 1 of 9 pages. So even if you're a smaller medium business, and let's remember, a lot of emphasis gets placed on enterprise, but there's a lot of, there's certainly way more small and medium businesses. In Microsoft parlance, any business over 300 users, you're into the enterprise class. But quite frankly, I think there's a huge opportunity to help 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 because they don't have dedicated people. Maybe enterprise people, you've got enough staff to sort out this. But so it is complicated. And, the complexity is that a bunch of things are changing. And so some of the article links go into it in more depth, and there's more links in the presentation, so get a copy from me. But let me just give you the high level. So as of July 1st, 2026, which is the start of Microsoft's new fiscal year, there's price increases that are going from 8% to 33%. The 33% is on the licenses that cost less. So a couple bucks. So like frontline user licenses might go from $8 to $10. So it's only a $2 increase, but that's a 33% increase. The 8% is on the more expensive, but even still, 8% when that's significant. So and across the board, they're somewhere in that range. So prices are going up. after Microsoft saying every year, we introduced 1,000 new features at no additional cost. Now they're saying, we're increasing prices because we introduced all these features over the past several years. So, whether they, anyway, that's something to be considered. And another significant thing is there used to be volume discounts. So the more you had, you were an A, B, C, D, that was a volume discount. They're eliminating all of those. Microsoft, the positive spin that they're saying is we're making standardized pricing. I mean, nobody really believes that, but that's kind of what they're saying. Um, for the largest customers, if you're dealing with, people with hundreds of thousands of users, they can still negotiate. But for a vast majority of people, Microsoft is eliminating these volume discounts. There is a whole bunch of new Copilot licenses, including the free version that keeps changing in terms of Microsoft kind of keeps adding capabilities, maybe in response to what other vendors are doing. But I think what people don't understand is if you're an organization that said, well, we need some of these capabilities that are included in the $30 per user per month Copilot license, the fact that the free version now includes those capabilities, maybe that's a good news story a year from now, depending on the length of your license term. It's not a good news story now if you've already paid the $30 per user per month. So I think Microsoft, in a sense, loses sight of it. They think adding new capabilities or shifting capabilities from the paid to the free is a good news thing, but they're doing this almost on a monthly basis. And so it means you really got to stay on top of it to make sure that you're optimizing your license spend. So it is, that's what's changing, and it's also making it confusing. There are consumption charges, mainly for AI agents, also for Teams Phone. And if you're a big organization, also for some other things like Purview, which is some compliance storage, or Viva Engage. And so this gets challenging. I'll share some links and talk about why that is. Really overall, and part of this no volume discounts, Microsoft is having direct relationships with the biggest organizations, so the enterprise agreements, the EAs, and they're pushing kind of the mid-size or even the large, but not the biggest, to deal with partners. So this is the CSPs. That might mean that these organizations who previously had an account manager at Microsoft and maybe could use them for free consulting and sorting this out, no longer may have that. So I think that there's going to be a lot of mid-tier, large organizations that could use consulting, SCTC member assistance, because they may not have that direct path to Microsoft as they push Microsoft to buy a lot more of this through their CSP program. Consumption charges, I don't really want to go deep into this except to say for large organizations or organizations using AI agents, I cut up a few pieces here, and you can kind of see that it gets really confusing really quickly. Like even if you read what's in that box, this is an example of their name changing. They used to call it messaging. They renamed them as Copilot credits. And you can see this chart here. If you can figure this out, maybe you can declare yourself a Microsoft licensing expert, but it gets really confusing. And the thing is if you're big and using some of these things, yeah, it's like 0.0001 cent, but it can really ratchet up super quickly. And it is complicated. There's a couple of questions, just like around Google Workspace. It is complicated. I do the comparisons, but I'm going to say all the vendors are, and I'm going to talk about it. You got to match kind of the licenses to the requirements, and there's no one vendor that necessarily makes that significantly cheaper. The thing is, when I talk about managing your license spend, whether it's with Microsoft or somebody else, you got to kind of do some work. So consumption charges, is complicated. So, well, okay, how do you manage your Microsoft spend? Um, and I'm going to talk about each of these and provide some links on how you do this. So you need to educate yourself. It's going to take time because it is complicated. Hopefully, I convince you of that. You need to then, of course, match the requirements to what real users are using. And this changes over time. And especially as there's new features, maybe what they're using, you could move them to a lower license, or maybe you need to move them to a higher license because they're using something insignificant. I'm going to talk specifically about Teams phone usage because I think that there's a real opportunity there, at least in some of the work and some of the examples where we've worked with organizations to optimize. Um, and then also, I'm going to talk about license delegation, which I think is an important thing. And those are third-party tools, but I'll mention some. But once again, the idea here is I don't want to come across as like you're trying to move everybody from E5 to E3. You're trying to maximize the value that you received. And the value could be spending more money with certain users. It's not to minimize it. It's really to make sure you're getting that return on investment from whatever your license spend is. I mean, overall, this should be what we're helping organizations do from all their technology investments. But as I said, if this is $100 billion globally, um, this is certainly an area where people are spending money. Okay, lots of links here. You can get the chart, the presentation. I'm gonna click on these, and I'm just gonna go just to show you. You got to spend some time because, like, here's this nice thing, and Microsoft has lots and lots of documentation. So trying to figure out what Copilot is right for me. They got some flow charts, but this you go deep and it's just like you start reading it and there's links to all these different things. And so um, you get into the different license options and okay, let me understand, and here's some comparison list. And so if you're going to educate yourself or whoever's tasked with this, it is going to take you a while. It's nice they put all these charts together, but there's a lot of charts to review. And in some ways, I often say with Microsoft documentation, it's you need to curate it. It's like there's too much documentation. It becomes overwhelming. So anyway, so there's a bunch of. Now I'm going to try to switch back to the right screen, and that's not it. Okay, here we are. So lots of links here. Spend the time. There used to be in Microsoft Learn, there used to be a certification that you could get to be a Microsoft certified license expert. They've actually gotten rid of that certification, which I think is a bad idea. But anyway, and they've taken all the licensing piece and they've thrown it into all the different admin sections. So Teams admin, SharePoint admin, Office admin. So they've kind of distributed all that licensing knowledge, maybe because they felt it was too big, it would blow up a brain of any individual human. But anyway, it is a rabbit hole on steroids, John. So there you go.
So Kevin, sorry to interrupt, but something
Yeah.
does come to mind, and that is that it's not only a rabbit hole, but I think it takes more than just even an hour to understand the depth of this, right? So, I mean, so we as other consultants can pitch this, right, or talk to a client about this, and I think you'd be more than willing to help and actually get engaged with them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
I
mean,
mean,
that's not the purpose of this call, but
no, no, no.
again,
I mean,
I'm not a residential expert on it, and et cetera. So.
yeah, and I think, it is going to take some work, and that's back to my first or second slide. I think it's going to take a bit of a team to do that. And if
Hmm.
I can send links to any other member or help as part of some engagement, I'm happy to do that. Once again, I'm not going to declare myself a Microsoft licensing expert because nobody is, but I can certainly, help hopefully curate that. But it is going to take time. And I think that there's tremendous value. I'll give an example in the Teams phone space, which is even more uh, kind of defined as opposed to overall. But there's a lot of money being spent, and I think we can provide real value to a whole bunch of organizations. And one of the things,
Hmm.
one of the ways to do this is to help organizations understand how to monitor usage and adoption. Microsoft has provided lots of tools and reports because they want you to understand, they want you to adopt the licenses that you're spending, especially with the Copilot licenses, because one of the things they're seeing is a great drop off. People may buy these and they may pilot them, but if they don't understand how to, incorporate them in their day-to-day processes, the tendency is they use them for a month or two and then stop using them. So Microsoft has created the Copilot control system, this Agent 365 thing to help monitor agents being used, this adoption score report, and all these usage reports. And once again, I'm just going to go real quickly here I just want to show you, if you don't know what this is, this Copilot control system, if you or your customers don't know what it is, this is a real opportunity to say, hey, you get this for free. It tells you what you're using. It gives you tips because, of course, Microsoft wants you to use more of it. So they give you tips. They allow you to message your users. So they put all kinds of great stuff. They have all this information in terms of like buying things, but also like learning. Once again, more broadly on adoption, they've created this whole report that says, hey, you're paying for stuff and you're only using 37% of some of these things. So there are all these built-in reports. And lastly, they've got all these usage reports from all these things. If you have an Office 365 license, you have all these tools that you may or may not know that they exist. There's individual reports to say, what is your team using? What's your organization using for all these wonderful tools that you paid for? So Microsoft is really trying to help you. Let me get back to the right screen again. Where is it?
Yep.
To help you kind of monitor all of this. So this is a real opportunity, and Microsoft has tried to do their part. And specifically on Microsoft Team Phone, I just really want to talk about this because this is a significant area. During COVID, I think a lot of people, your office phone system, your PBX didn't really help because it was in the office and it was a desk phone. Lots of organizations rushed to add PSD and calling to Teams Phone. Quite frankly, they likely, if they use calling plans, which was easy, or now Operator Connect, they may have too many of these based on PSTN phone usage now. They may have, if they're using SIP trunking, they may have too many concurrent SIP channels. There's some new pay-as-you-go alternatives that might, these were new after kind of the COVID. There's some shared calling options that might be viable. And there's also alternatives outside of, the Microsoft ecosystem. I mean, I just talked about two here, like Scipio, which isn't a calling plan, but it's more straightforward than maybe some of the Microsoft options. Also, people are looking to say, hey, Microsoft maybe plus another vendor. So for instance, this isn't the only one, but Microsoft plus Zoom Phone, maybe that provides better resiliency. So if Teams goes down, maybe I don't put all my eggs in one basket. And maybe there's some financial advantages as well. So look at necessarily not all Microsoft, there are other options. I mean, Ring Central has options. I mean, WebEx, all the other kind of vendors provide this Microsoft Plus because, other vendors would like to have part of that 440 million commercial office seats. And, the truth is, I said there's lots of Microsoft reports, but and I don't know if this is intentional or just because there's so much information, they don't make it easy, even with all these Microsoft Teams usage reports, to right-size this. So, here's a concrete example. We just did this for a 3,000 person, so not even a super big organization. Just by going through this, and this wasn't a big engagement. We have fixed price engagements that say, look, if we don't find the savings, we'll refund the difference between the savings and what we charge you. So for 3,000 people, this was $130,000 a year in savings. That would allow them, for example, that's like about what, $50 a little bit, almost $50 a user. So they could have used this money. Maybe it would have been better to then say, hey, we'll buy everybody Copilot. Maybe that could have driven tremendous revenue or reduced cost for their organization. But there are significant savings. So if your customer is using Teams Phone with PSTN, and if they haven't in the past couple of years right-sized it, there's a real opportunity. Just ask them the question. If they need help, either help them or talk to me, and I'm happy to give you some information, or if it makes sense to work together to help them, because there's a big opportunity there. And lastly, I just want to talk about kind of how to manage your license, like maybe licensing delegation. The truth of the matter is, Microsoft, by my count, and maybe it's changed, but there are 9 major and 12 specialized portals. So for instance, there's a Teams admin portal. People call it the TAC, Teams admin console. There's, the Exchange console. There's SharePoint. There's the overall admin. There's 9 major portals, and there's 12 specialized portals. And for the most part, Microsoft assumes that these global these admins are going to be able to oversee and delegate licenses, assign and revoke licenses from a centralized position. And that is okay, I guess, maybe if you have 1,000 people, but if you have like 10,000, 20,000, or even if you have a smaller number and they're distributed across different geographies, different countries, or even different business units that have different needs, it's complicated for a central person to know, hey, Steve he could really benefit from some additional license, and Kevin doesn't need that license. And so overall, IT pros that are in the office or closer to the end users are going to better be able to maximize the return on investment. Once again, not necessarily minimizing license spend, but just spending it where it makes the most sense. The Microsoft tools do that a little bit, but it's hard to do. And this isn't the only tool for sure, but I know Microsoft leans on VOS to help them with some of these things, especially around some of the security licenses. There are other tools. So once again, but if you're doing, look at third-party tools, especially like in a bigger organization where there's departmental chargebacks, where you say, hey, yeah, business leader, you have the P&L for this department. You can use all the licenses, but we're going to charge you for that. That's not really something that the Microsoft tools do. So some third-party tools definitely do that. And once again, it's about maximizing value. So I just want to emphasize that, because it's not about, there are firms that come in and say, you're spending too much on Microsoft, we'll help you minimize that. My thing is just spend the dollars where you get the return. And I do want to emphasize, because this is really near and dear to me, return on investment requires adoption. So none of these tools, and this is why I think Stevie said whatever, Gartner says 60% of AI projects fail.
Right.
The reason that they fail is because you invest in AI and then people don't use it, or they use it inappropriately. So I'm going to say 2 things are really important. Providing training, and that's ongoing training, and driving adoption. So explaining to end users what's in it for them, why should they use any of these tools. And here, Microsoft gets kudos. They have an entire adoption kit, and for each of their products, they have user enablement resources, and it's huge. So you go here, and this is where it's somewhat overwhelming. So I think as a consultant, you can help curate this. But you say, oh, well, we've spent money on OneDrive. Well, you go there and it's like, here's all the tools, here's all the training materials. And that is for everything, all of their product lines. So, kudos to Microsoft for definitely, providing lots of training and adoption materials. So I included Clippy. that's the end of my formal presentation. I did a good job leaving a few minutes for questions. So I'll go to the chat. I'm going to stop sharing, so we just go back. But
Sure.
yeah, let's look through the chat. Or I don't know, Steve, did anything that jumped out there?
Ye- Well, so yeah, one question that came up was how does Microsoft compare with Google Workspace? And I think Robert Harris answered that, or maybe you have an opinion on that or a thought on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on your requirements because, if you look at like I use Google Workspace, I have a paid license for that. But it doesn't, I mean, it's got sheets and slides, and it depending on your requirements, it doesn't necessarily provide all the things that necessarily Microsoft may may provide, right? So
Hmm.
I think, I always come back to recommendations without requirements is marketing.
Hmm.
I love that quote because I said it. But it's like there's no direct answer. I think even like Google Workspace, it may be cheaper, but like I've got a Gemini um, Pro license with my Google Workspace, so I think it depends on your end users. But I would encourage you, and especially like the poll showed, Microsoft pricing is going up. It makes sense to look at, does Zoom Workplace deal with what I need? Does WebEx Suite? Does Google? And depending on your organization's requirements, maybe, maybe it's now worth the change, right? So um, there you go. Let's see what else. Yeah, Teams
And
Premium.
we consultants, we love change.
Yeah,
That
yeah, I
equals
think
opportunity.
yeah, I think that there's absolutely, great opportunity when there is confusion, right? And there seems to be
Hmm.
confusion. Teams Premium is most confusing. Um, yeah, Teams Premium is super confusing, and it's like Teams Premium includes some of the AI features, specifically the meeting recap that Copilot includes. So if you're only using meeting summary, maybe Teams Premium will meet your requirements, but Teams Premium is also required for like some of the more advanced call queue stuff, for some security. It's like they put an eclectic mix of random stuff in Teams
Hmm.
Premium. So it's super confusing. If you're looking for AI, if you buy Copilot, that is a superset of all the AI that Teams Premium includes. I have a
Hmm.
huge problem that there's some security stuff in Teams Premium because I feel like security should be table stakes. But once again, the net is it's super confusing, and you got to kind of do some work to match up some stuff. Uh,
Sure.
Roberto asked something about eliminate desktop versions. Yeah, yeah. So this is Roberto. You bring up a great point. Like Microsoft makes things super confusing. There are licenses that don't give you the desktop version. They're cheaper, and you only get the web version. Um, and so maybe you use the web version because it's cheaper. The other thing is like Microsoft has now created like the new Outlook, which is like they start and they add features only to the web version, not to the desktop version. So once again, I think Microsoft is so big, they've got different product groups, even though there's Outlook for the web and Outlook for the desktop, they're two separate product groups and they have different features. And this confuses the heck out of end users. And this is why initial and ongoing training, if you're a Microsoft shop, is critical just to help people not lose their mind. I think vendors like web versions because it's easier to update, and this is why like the Google suite of apps they change frequently, which is good if you're an IT pro. It's not really that great if you're an end user because you just want to get your work done, and when they move things around, I find sometimes it creates a really painful Monday when you're trying to join a meeting and they move the buttons.
Well, and I guess my question was I just gave the personal example, but strategically, like there's a lot of things that, advanced features in Excel, some of the more secure features in Exchange, like they're not there. Like they didn't put them in. And so for enterprises or more tech savvy small businesses, like it really affects your business.
Yeah, no, well, and it's super confusing to people. Like they say, well, you can open this, share this document. You open it in, PowerPoint for the web, and then you try to tell people to do something. And to your point, it doesn't work the same. It doesn't have some of the advanced features. And yeah, I think creating multiple versions of the same thing. And the best example is Copilot. They've just confused the heck out of people. And I think that what that causes is when there's mass confusion, people are afraid to use it because they're afraid of doing something wrong. And I think that that's hurting overall their adoption. So you bring up a super valid point that I wish Microsoft would simplify things. And this is why, quite frankly, I feel like this Microsoft plus Zoom for certain features. I appreciate that Zoom takes extra time to kind of simplify some of the features, even as they add more AI to some of their products. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I
okay.
think Zoom just won some kind of AI award, right? I think according to a Dave Michaels feed that I saw last week.
I don't know which specific one you're talking
Yeah,
about,
I
but
can't remember offhand, but yeah.
their Zoom broadcast studio, I think, got an Academy Award for technology or whatever, right? So I don't know what Dave Michaels was specifically talking about.
No, I can't remember either. Okay, so John Glover has a closing question. Is the master strategy to vindicate Microsoft?
Well, John.
And then Robert has a question too.
Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, effectively, yes. These lower volume customers. I mean, part of this is part of Microsoft wanting to push these lower volume customers to deal through partners. There still may be some discounts that are related more to the duration of your license as opposed to the volume,
Mm-hmm.
but seat count is not, that used to be the absolute metric that drove the A, B, C, D discounts. So I think everybody has to, that started in November of 2025, the volume discount being eliminated. So people did renew some of their terms
Sure.
moving forward, right? But I think I don't know. It feels like Microsoft feels a little bit like they've won the game. They're
Mm-hmm.
reducing revenue
Yeah.
for partners, they're increasing it to
Yep.
customers, and for their
Right.
MVPs, they're providing, this is their most valuable professionals, they're providing less benefits. So they used to give you more
Mm-hmm.
licenses as an MVP for
Mm-hmm.
free. Now they're saying, no, we're giving you less. So I think
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft is feeling a little bit like they're in the driver's seat. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's like, so for me, I mean, I love some of the capabilities of Microsoft, but for customers, I think it's a good time to just reevaluate, use what
Mm.
works for you, but get the most value out of whatever you're
Yeah.
spending.
Well, thank you, Kevin. So we're at the top of the hour and great education. Thank you so much for doing that. And we will see everybody again in 2 weeks. And I'm sure I'm going to call you Kevin as at least to start. So thanks so much. And thanks everybody for joining us today. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Yeah.
Everybody, great job, Kev.
Yep. Great job. And thanks for being a Canadian, Kevin, and Roberta and Chris.
There you go.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Bye for now.